The mining vessel Prospector drifted silently through the void, its huge metal body reflecting the distant starlight. Captain James Reed stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the control panels. He ran a hand through his graying hair as he studied the strange readings on the main screen. "What do you make of it, West?" he asked, turning to his communications officer. Alicia West, a sharp-eyed woman with short blonde hair, frowned at her console. "It's definitely a signal, Captain, but not like anything in our database. It's been repeating for who knows how long." Reed nodded and pressed a button on his chair. "Dr. Morton to the bridge." A few minutes later, Lisa Morton hurried onto the bridge. The ship's linguist was tall and thin, with intelligent eyes that sparkled with curiosity behind her glasses. "You found something interesting?" she asked, already moving toward West's station. "A beacon of some kind," Reed explained. "Out here, beyond mapped space. I need to know what it's saying." Morton plugged her tablet into the console and began working. The bridge crew watched in silence as data scrolled across her screen. After 20 minutes, she looked up with a puzzled expression. "It's a warning," she said simply. Reed raised an eyebrow. "A warning about what?" "That's the problem. The language is unlike anything I've seen before. I can only translate parts of it." She pointed to her screen. "It mentions something called a guardian that protects this system. The message repeats that trespassers will be judged, evaluated. The exact meaning is unclear." Marcus Bell, the first officer, stepped forward from his post. His dark skin contrasted with the white of his uniform as he crossed his arms. "Captain, this sounds like a situation worth reporting before we proceed." Reed nodded slowly. "Agreed, but let's gather more information first." He turned to the ship's historian, who had been quietly observing from the corner of the bridge. "Dr. Grant, any thoughts?" Thomas Grant was the oldest person on the bridge, with a full white beard and kind eyes that had seen more than most. He approached the main screen with careful steps. "Throughout human history, there have been mornings like this," he said thoughtfully. "Ancient civilizations often created myths about forbidden territories to keep others away from valuable resources." He studied the beacon's signal pattern. "But there's something familiar about this." "So it's just an ancient keep-out sign?" Reed asked. Grant frowned. "Perhaps, or perhaps not. The patterns here remind me of legends from Earth, stories that appeared in multiple cultures about guardians of sacred places." Bell shifted uncomfortably. "Captain, I recommend we mark this location and report back to Helios before crossing the boundary." Reed considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Send the data to corporate. Let them decide if it's worth the risk." 3 hours later, Reed sat in his private quarters, reading the message from Helios Mining Corporation for the third time. "Proceed with resource scanning in the system beyond the beacon. Initial data suggests exceptionally high mineral concentrations. Complete bonus structure attached. Priority level. Maximum." A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Bell stepped inside, his face tense. "You've received orders." Reed nodded and showed him the message. Bell read it and frowned deeply. "They're ignoring the warning completely," Bell said. "No caution at all." "The potential payoff is enormous," Reed replied, pointing to the bonus figures. "Enough to set the entire crew up for life." "If we live to spend it," Bell muttered. Reed stood up and placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Marcus, this wouldn't be the first time ancient warnings turned out to be nothing but dust and superstition. Remember the Cygnus cluster? Those deadly guardian spirits turned out to be natural gas clouds." "This feels different," Bell insisted. "It always does," Reed said with a slight smile. "Prepare the ship to cross the boundary. I'll address the crew." An hour later, the Prospector hovered near the invisible line marked by the beacon's signal. The entire crew had gathered in the ship's main hall to hear the captain's announcement. Reed stood before them, projecting confidence he didn't entirely feel. "We have orders to proceed into this system for mineral survey. Corporate believes the warning beacon is an ancient attempt to scare off competitors from a resource-rich territory. Dr. Grant stood up from his seat. Captain, I've been researching further. There are striking similarities between this beacon's message and ancient Earth myths about territories protected by beings of great power. The warnings all speak of judgment that is pure, based only on actions, not intentions. Reed nodded respectfully. Noted, Doctor. But we have our orders. The potential discovery here could advance human expansion by decades. Or end it entirely, Grant said quietly, but he sat down without further argument. Reed looked across the faces of his crew, some excited by the potential bonus, others concerned by the unknown. We cross in 30 minutes. To your stations. The prospector moved slowly past the beacon, its engines humming as it pushed into the forbidden space. For a moment, every system on the ship flickered and died. Darkness enveloped the bridge. Then, just as suddenly, everything returned to normal. Status report, Reed demanded, his knuckles white as he gripped the arms of his chair. All systems functioning normally, Captain, the engineering officer reported. That power fluctuation lasted exactly 3.14 seconds. Pi, Dr. Morton whispered, exactly pi seconds. Reed pretended not to hear her. See, he said to the bridge crew. Just an ancient defense mechanism. No guardian, no judgment. Just old technology giving its last gasp. Bell didn't look convinced, but he returned to his station without comment. Set course for the third planet, Reed ordered. That's where the mineral readings are strongest. As the prospector moved deeper into the system, none of the crew noticed the subtle changes beginning in the ship's systems, microscopic alterations in the hull, tiny adjustments in the computer code, almost imperceptible shifts in the engine frequency. Nor did they see the shadow that briefly passed across the distant star, as if something massive had moved in front of it, something that had been watching and waiting for a very, very long time. In his quarters, Dr. Grant opened an old book of Earth myths and read again the passage that had been bothering him. And the guardian judges not by word but by deed. Its verdict is truth, pure. He closed the book with trembling hands and whispered to himself, "What have we done?" 3 days had passed since the prospector entered the forbidden system. The ship orbited the third planet, which glowed with an unusual blue-green light. Captain Reed had never seen mineral readings like these before. If the scans were correct, this single planet held enough rare elements to fuel Earth's technology for a century. Send the report to Helios, Reed ordered, leaning back in his chair. Tell them we found exactly what they wanted. Alicia West nodded and began the transmission. Suddenly, she frowned and adjusted her headset. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," she said. "There's a signal coming from somewhere." Reed moved to her station. "From the planet?" "I don't think so." West's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It's all around us, like we're inside the source." "Listen." She switched the signal to the bridge speakers. A series of tones played in a steady rhythm. Dr. Morton, who had been analyzing data nearby, looked up sharply. "That's a mathematical sequence," she said. "It's counting down." "Counting down to what?" Reed asked. Before Morton could answer, Robert Wilson, the chief engineer, called from the engine room. "Captain, you need to come see this," he said, his voice tight with worry. In the engine room, Wilson pointed to a section of the hull displayed on a screen. Reed stared at the microscopic images in disbelief. "The metal is changing?" he asked. Wilson nodded, his normally calm face lined with concern. "Just small areas, almost too small to notice. The molecular structure is being rearranged. It's like something is studying our technology, learning how it works by rebuilding tiny parts of it." "Could it be radiation from the planet?" Reed suggested. "No radiation could do this." Wilson pointed to a particular pattern. "This is organized. Deliberate." Reed frowned and tapped his communicator. Dr. Grant to the engine room. When the historian arrived, Reed showed him the changes in the hull. Grant's face went pale. "This matches the stories," he whispered. "The old myths say the Guardian studies trespassers before judging them. It learns everything about them first." Reed rubbed his forehead. "These are just stories, Doctor. Stories that match exactly what's happening." Grant insisted. "Captain, we need to leave this system now." Reed's communicator beeped before he could respond. "Captain, to the mess hall," came Bell's urgent voice. "We have a situation with the crew." In the mess hall, Reed found several crew members sitting in a circle, their faces drawn with exhaustion. "None of them have slept in 24 hours, Bell explained quietly. "They're all having the same nightmare." "What nightmare?" Reed asked. A young engineer named Taylor looked up with bloodshot eyes. "A huge ship," she said. "Bigger than anything humans have ever built. It rises from darkness, watching us, judging us." Others nodded in agreement. One by one, they described the same dream. A massive vessel of impossible size and strange design, emerging from shadow with a sense of ancient power. Reed tried to sound confident. "It's just stress. The isolation of deep space gets to everyone eventually." "All of us having the exact same dream?" Taylor asked. "That's not stress, Captain. That's something else." Reed had no answer for that. Back on the bridge, Reed stared at the planet below, wrestling with his decision. The mineral wealth was beyond imagination, but the strange events were becoming harder to ignore. "Captain," West called suddenly. "Incoming transmission from Helios. Priority 1. The main screen lit up to show the stern face of Michael Hayes, the corporate director for Deep Space Operations. His expensive suit and perfectly combed hair seemed out of place among the practical uniforms of the ship's crew. "Captain Reed," Hayes said without greeting. "Excellent work locating those mineral deposits. I'm on my way to your position now." Reed blinked in surprise. "You're coming here personally?" "The potential value of this discovery warrants executive oversight," Hayes replied with a thin smile. "My transport will arrive in 12 hours. Prepare for my arrival." The screen went dark. Bell moved to Reed's side. "They're sending a director out here." "That never happens." "The deposits must be even more valuable than we thought," Reed said, but a knot of worry tightened in his stomach. That night, after most of the crew had retired to their quarters, Reed sat alone on the bridge, reviewing the day's reports. Dr. Grant's warnings echoed in his mind, along with the crew's shared nightmare. Suddenly, every light and system on the ship shut down simultaneously. Complete darkness enveloped the bridge. Reed sat perfectly still, his heart pounding in his ears. After exactly 3 minutes and 14 seconds, pi again, all systems reactivated at once. But something had changed. On every screen throughout the ship, a single message appeared. "Final warning." Reed stared at the words, a chill running down his spine. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "This is the captain. All senior officers to the bridge immediately." Within minutes, the bridge filled with anxious faces. Bell, Morton, Grant, Wilson, and West all arrived together, followed by others. No one spoke as Reed pointed to the message still displayed on every screen. "It's communicating directly now," Grant said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Guardian has finished its study of us." "We don't know that," Reed insisted. "This could be a malfunction, or—" He was interrupted by a call from the landing bay. "Captain, Director Hayes' transport has arrived ahead of schedule. He's requesting immediate permission to board." Reed looked at his officers, seeing his own concern reflected in their faces. "Grant him access," he said finally. "But security protocols remain at maximum." As the crew prepared for Hayes' arrival, no one noticed that the ominous message had disappeared from all screens, replaced by normal operations, as if nothing had happened. But deep beneath the planet's surface, something ancient began to stir. Something that had been waiting, watching, and judging. Something that had given its final warning. And in 12 hours, it would wake fully for the first time in millennia. Director Michael Hayes strode onto the bridge of the Prospector like he owned it. which, technically, he did. His expensive black suit stood out among the practical uniforms of the crew. His cold eyes missed nothing as he surveyed the bridge. "Impressive mineral readings, Captain Reed," Hayes said, not bothering with a greeting. "Perhaps the richest deposit ever discovered." Reed nodded stiffly. "Yes, sir. But there have been some concerning developments I need to report." Hayes waved his hand dismissively. "Your report mentions some system glitches and crew nightmares. Nothing unexpected when dealing with a big discovery." He turned to the main screen showing the planet below. "Have you deployed the survey team yet?" "We sent a small scout ship yesterday," Reed replied. "They landed safely but lost contact with us shortly after beginning their survey. Equipment failure, most likely," Hayes said with a shrug. "This system has unusual radiation patterns." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Sir, with respect, I don't believe it was equipment failure. There's something protecting this system. Something that gave us a final warning last night." Hayes turned cold eyes toward the historian. "Ah, Dr. Grant, your file mentions your interest in mythology." He smiled thinly. "We're here for facts, Doctor, not fairy tales." The warning message appeared on every screen simultaneously, Reed pointed out. "And the crew's shared nightmare." "Mass hysteria," Hayes interrupted. "It happens in isolated crews. Now, since the scout team is delayed, we'll move directly to Phase 2. He pulled out a tablet and brought up a schematic of large machines. "Deploy the automated mining drones. I've brought 12 with me. They can begin preliminary extraction immediately." First Officer Bell exchanged worried glances with Reed. "Sir, is that wise before we understand what happened to our scout team?" Hayes' smile disappeared. "Let me be clear. This discovery could be worth trillions. Every hour we delay costs Helios millions. Deploy the drones immediately." Reed hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Prepare the mining drones for deployment," he ordered. 4 hours later, Reed stood in the observation room with Hayes, watching on the screen as the mining drones began cutting into the planet's surface. Great clouds of dust rose as their powerful drills bit into the blue-green rock. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Hayes said, his eyes gleaming. "The sound of progress." Before Reed could answer, the ship's sensors began blaring alarms. "Captain." West's voice came through the communicator. "Massive energy spike from the planet's surface." Reed rushed back to the bridge with Hayes close behind. The main screen showed a mountain range near the mining site beginning to move. "What are we looking at?" Hayes demanded. No one answered at first, all eyes fixed on the screen in disbelief. The mountain wasn't a mountain at all. It was rising, revealing the structure beneath, a structure of impossible size and alien design. "That's," Dr. Morton whispered, "that's a ship." The object rising from the planet's surface was undeniably a vessel, but unlike anything humans had built or even imagined. It stretched for miles, its dark surface covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. It rose silently, majestically, until it hovered above the mining site. "The warship," Taylor said from her engineering station, her face pale. "It's the ship from our dreams." Dr. Grant rushed to his console and began pulling up files. "The Guardian," he muttered. "It's real." Hayes stared at the screen, his confident manner cracking slightly. "How big is that thing?" "Based on initial scans," Bell replied quietly, "over 50 miles long." "Impossible," Hayes whispered. "It's holding position directly above our mining operation," West reported. "No signals, no energy weapons charging. It's just watching." Hayes quickly regained his composure. "Captain Reed, what defensive capabilities does this ship have?" Reed turned to Hayes in surprise. "Sir, we're a mining vessel. We have point defense systems for asteroids, but nothing that could possibly affect something of that size." "We need to prepare for hostile action," Hayes insisted. "That thing could attack at any moment. Or it might be responding to our mining operation," Dr. Grant suggested. We are the intruders here, after all. Hayes ignored him. Is there any weaponry on board that could be modified for self-defense? Reed hesitated. The mining drones have explosive charges for breaking up large deposits, but I strongly advise against any aggressive action. Your concern is noted, Hayes said coldly. But Helios protocol is clear. We must demonstrate strength when confronted. He turned to West. Officer, open a ship-wide channel. With Reed's reluctant nod, West complied. Attention all personnel, Hayes announced. I am assuming direct command under Helios emergency protocols. Prepare mining drones 7 through 12 for defensive deployment. In the archives room, Dr. Grant worked frantically, connecting his findings to the massive ship now hovering above the planet. The same pattern, he muttered to himself, comparing ancient Earth drawings with the ship's design. Guardian vessels in 12 different Earth mythologies, all describing judgment that is pure. His screen suddenly filled with a new translation of the original warning beacon, completed by Dr. Morton's language programs. Grant read it with growing horror. The Guardian judges not by intent, but by action alone. Its verdict is truth, pure. Those who heed the warning may pass in peace. Those who take what is not theirs face judgment. Grant grabbed his communicator. Captain Reed, I need to speak with you immediately. On the bridge, Reed received Grant's message just as Hayes finished directing the weapons team to arm the mining drones with explosives. Sir, Reed said urgently, Dr. Grant has new information about. Launch the drones, Hayes ordered, ignoring Reed completely. Reed watched in dismay as 6 mining drones, now converted to makeshift missiles, shot toward the massive warship. They looked tiny against its enormous bulk, like insects attacking an elephant. The drones never reached their target. About halfway to the warship, they simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, no impact. They vanished as if they had never existed. Silence fell over the bridge. What just happened? Hayes demanded. Before anyone could answer, every crew member suddenly clutched their heads as images flooded their minds. Visions of planets stripped bare, dying worlds, extinct species, and civilizations that had collapsed after depleting their resources. They saw dozens of alien ships like their own, coming to mine and take, ignoring warnings, until nothing remained but dust. They were seeing the fates of those who had come before them. Those who had ignored the warnings. Those who had been judged. The visions faded, leaving the bridge crew of the Prospector shaken and silent. Captain Reed gripped his chair to steady himself, the images of devastated worlds still fresh in his mind. What was that? Hayes demanded, his face pale. He alone seemed more angry than frightened. Some kind of psychological attack. Dr. Grant entered the bridge, his tablet clutched tightly in his hand. Not an attack, he said firmly. A warning, or rather, evidence. The Guardian is showing us what happened to others who ignored the warnings. Hayes turned on the historian. Your superstitions aren't helpful, Doctor. It's not superstition, Dr. Morton interrupted, stepping forward. I've completed the full translation of the beacon message. She looked at Reed. Captain, it says, this system stands as testament to balance. The Guardian judges not by word but by deed. Its verdict is truth, pure. Reed stared at the massive warship hovering silently on the main screen. It judged our actions, not our words. And we failed that judgment, Bell added quietly. Hayes slammed his fist on a nearby console. This is ridiculous. We have a right to these resources. That thing can't just. His words cut off as the warship finally moved. Its massive form shifted position, descending slowly toward the planet's surface at a different location from the mining site. The bridge crew watched in tense silence. What is it doing? Reed whispered. The answer came moments later. A beam of blue-white light shot from the warship to the planet below. Where it touched, the surface split open in a perfectly straight line, cutting a mile-deep gash in the planet's crust. It's attacking the planet, Hayes asked, confused. "No," Wilson said from the engineering station, studying the sensor readings. "It's revealing something." The ship's cameras zoomed in on the gash. Within the deep-cut, complex structures became visible. Technology unlike anything humans had seen before, built into the very bedrock of the planet. "That planet isn't just a ball of valuable minerals," Dr. Grant said in awe. "It's a machine, a vast planetary-scale machine." Dr. Morton's eyes widened as she studied the images. "It's some kind of ecosystem management system. Look at the energy patterns. It's regulating the planet's climate, maintaining balance." The Guardian wasn't protecting mineral wealth, Reed realized. It was protecting a planetary restoration system. Hayes stared at the screen, his expression calculating rather than awed. "This technology must be worth even more than the minerals. If we could study it, reverse engineer it." "You still don't understand," Reed cut in, his patience finally gone. "This isn't about what we can take. This is about what we've done." Before Hayes could respond, the ship's computer chimed. "Incoming transmission," West announced, surprised. It's coming from the warship." "Put it through," Reed ordered. The main screen flickered, but instead of showing an alien face or written message, it displayed a series of images. The prospector arriving in the system, the scout ship landing, the mining drones beginning their work. Each action was paired with an evaluation symbol, not in any human language, but somehow perfectly understandable to everyone watching. "The mining operation received the most severe negative judgment. It's showing us our actions as it sees them," Morton explained, "judging us by what we did, not what we said or intended." The final image showed two possible futures. In one, the prospector departed the system and never returned. In the other, a different kind of human vessel arrived, not to mine, but to learn. "It's offering us a choice," Reed said softly. Hayes had seen enough. While everyone's attention was fixed on the screen, he backed quietly toward the exit. Reed noticed too late. "Hayes, wait." But the director was already gone, running down the corridor. "Where is he going?" Bell asked. Wilson checked his console and swore. "He's heading for the emergency shuttle bay." Reed grabbed his communicator. "Security to emergency shuttle bay." Now, by the time Reed and Bell reached the shuttle bay, Hayes had already sealed himself inside one of the small craft. Through the viewport, they could see him working frantically at the controls. "Hayes," Reed shouted through the communication system, "stand down immediately." The director's voice came back, cool and determined. "Sorry, Captain. This discovery is too valuable to abandon. I'm taking the core samples and survey data back to Helios. They'll send a proper military escort next time." "There won't be a next time," Reed warned. "The Guardian won't let you leave with that data." "Watch me," Hayes replied. The shuttle's engines fired up. Reed and Bell could only step back as the bay doors opened, and the small craft shot out into space. On the bridge, the crew watched as Hayes' shuttle raced away from the prospector. "He's making a run for the system boundary," West reported. "Will the warship stop him?" Morton asked. As if in answer, the massive vessel turned slightly, one section of its hull facing the fleeing shuttle. There was no beam, no visible weapon fired, but the shuttle suddenly stopped moving. On the screen, they could see Hayes inside the shuttle, frantically working the controls as the craft hung motionless in space. Then, before their astonished eyes, the shuttle began to change. It didn't explode. Instead, it began to disassemble itself, piece by piece, component by component, in a precise and methodical process. The hull panels separated, the engine components detached, the internal systems disconnected, all without damaging each other, floating apart in a perfect demonstration of engineering knowledge. Within minutes, the shuttle was completely disassembled into thousands of neatly organized parts. In the center floated Hayes, still alive in his pressure suit, surrounded by the perfectly dismantled remains of his escape craft. It took the shuttle apart with surgical precision. Wilson whispered in awe. It could have done that to our entire ship at any time. Reed nodded grimly. But it didn't. It judged our actions and found most of us redeemable. He turned to West. Open a channel to Hayes. Hayes' voice came through, shaky and frightened for the first time. Reed, what's happening? My suit has only 6 hours of air. The Guardian has made its judgment, Reed replied calmly. You acted with greed and deception, ignoring all warnings. Its verdict is truth, pure. You can't leave me here, Hayes shouted. Reed looked at his crew, then back at the screen showing Hayes floating amid the disassembled shuttle. The choice isn't mine to make anymore, he said simply. As if on cue, the massive warship began to move again, this time turning its attention fully to the prospector. And Reed knew that humanity's final judgment was about to begin. The bridge of the prospector fell silent as the massive warship turned toward them. Captain Reed stood straight, his face calm despite the fear churning in his stomach. This was the moment of truth. All hands, this is the captain, Reed announced over the ship-wide system. Remain at your stations. Do not attempt any defensive measures or evasive actions. Bell looked at him questioningly. Captain, if it wanted to destroy us, it would have done so already, Reed explained quietly. It's been testing us, judging us. Now we need to show it that we understand. The warship moved closer until it filled the entire view screen. Its surface seemed to shift and change, patterns of light flowing across its dark hull like rivers of stars. It's beautiful, Dr. Morton whispered. Suddenly, every screen on the bridge changed to show the same image, a human figure, neither male nor female, neither young nor old, standing with open hands. Is that an invitation? Bell asked. Before anyone could answer, Reed felt a strange sensation, as if his mind were expanding beyond his body. The bridge around him faded, replaced by a vast, open space that seemed both inside the warship and somehow beyond physical reality itself. Standing before him was the figure from the screen, now clearly visible. It appeared human, yet Reed somehow knew it was merely a form chosen for his comfort. The figure glowed with soft blue light. You are the leader, the figure said. The words weren't spoken aloud, but formed directly in Reed's mind. I am Captain James Reed of the mining vessel Prospector, he replied, finding he could communicate the same way. You ignored the warnings, the figure stated. There was no anger in the words, only fact. We did, Reed acknowledged. We didn't understand their importance. Many before you made the same claim, the figure responded. Their remains orbit dead stars. Reed felt a chill at the matter-of-fact statement. Then why are we still alive? Because, unlike the others, some among you recognized truth when faced with it. Some among you chose differently when shown the consequences. The figure's form shifted slightly, becoming more distinct. I am the Guardian. I was created long ago by those who nearly destroyed themselves through consumption without thought. Around them, the space filled with images of an ancient alien civilization, beings of light and energy who had once been physical creatures. Reed saw their history unfold, how they had consumed world after world until their greed nearly led to their extinction, how they had finally learned to exist in harmony with their environments, and how they had created the Guardians to protect developing species from following the same destructive path. The system you entered is not a resource to be consumed, the Guardian continued. It is a seed bank, a restoration center, a place where damaged ecosystems throughout this sector can be renewed and rebalanced. Reed saw the truth of it now. The planet wasn't just valuable for its minerals. It was part of a vast network of worlds maintained by technology beyond human understanding, preserving countless species and environments. We didn't know, Reed said simply. Ignorance does not change consequence, the Guardian replied. But recognition of error can change future action. The space around them shifted again, and Reed saw two clear visions of the future. In one, humanity continued its path of consumption, mining world after world, until nothing remained but dead rocks orbiting dying stars. In the other, humans learned from the Guardian's creators, developing technology that existed in harmony with natural systems rather than depleting them. Humanity stands at a crossroads, the Guardian stated. You must choose. Reed considered carefully before answering. The choice seems clear, but I cannot speak for all humanity. Yet your actions will shape their path, the Guardian replied. Will you leave this system and never return, or will you send those who wish to learn rather than take? Reed thought of Earth, of the corporations like Helios that valued profit above all else. Then he thought of people like Dr. Grant and Dr. Morton, whose eyes had lit up with wonder at discovering the truth about the planetary system. I choose to learn, Reed said finally, if you will teach us. The Guardian studied him silently for a moment. Your words are noted, but judgment remains based on action alone. You may send a learning vessel when the next stellar cycle begins. No weapons, no mining equipment. If these terms are broken, judgment will be swift and final. And Director Hayes? Reed asked, remembering the man floating alone among the disassembled shuttle parts. His judgment is sealed by his own actions, the Guardian answered. But his life will be preserved. He will be returned to your ship as a reminder of the consequences of deception. The space around them began to fade. Remember, Captain Reed, the Guardian's voice echoed as the vision dissolved. Our judgment is truth, pure. We see only what you do, not what you claim to believe. Reed blinked and found himself back on the bridge of the Prospector. Only seconds had passed, though it had felt like hours. Captain. Bell was looking at him with concern. Are you all right? Yes, Reed said, his voice steady. I've spoken with the Guardian. He quickly explained what had happened and the choice he had made. As he finished, West called out from her station. Captain, I'm picking up a signal from Hayes' suit. It's moving. Back toward us. On the screen, they could see Hayes' pressure-suited figure being gently pushed through space toward the Prospector, guided by an invisible force. Prepare to retrieve the Director, Reed ordered, and set course to leave this system. He turned to Dr. Grant and Dr. Morton. I need you two to prepare a full report of everything we've learned here. Not for Helios, but for the Scientific Council on Earth. They won't believe us, Morton said. Not without proof. Reed smiled slightly. We have proof. He nodded toward Hayes, who was now visible through the observation window as the retrieval team guided him into the airlock. And I think the Director will be very cooperative in confirming our story. 1 month later, Reed stood before the Earth Science Council, finishing his testimony. The room was silent as the assembled scientists and officials absorbed his story. And so, Reed concluded, the Guardian offered humanity a choice: continue down our current path of consumption or learn a better way. He gestured to where Hayes sat, subdued and humbled by his experience. Director Hayes can confirm everything I've told you. Hayes nodded slowly. It's all true. The Guardian's judgment was perfect, pure. An older council member leaned forward. You're suggesting we abandon all mineral rights to potentially the richest system ever discovered. I'm suggesting we gain something far more valuable, Reed replied. Knowledge of how to live in balance. Technology that enhances rather than depletes. Dr. Grant stepped forward, displaying images of the planetary system they had discovered. The Guardians protect these systems not to hoard resources, but to preserve life itself. If we respect their terms, they will share knowledge that could transform our civilization. The council chamber erupted in debate, but Reed knew already what the decision would be. Humanity's greed was strong, but its curiosity and will to survive were stronger. 6 months later, Reed watched from the observation deck as the research vessel Horizon prepared to depart for the Guardian system. No weapons, no mining equipment, just scientists and explorers ready to learn. Dr. Morton, now the mission's lead linguist, joined him at the window. Do you think they'll accept us? She asked. Reed smiled, remembering the Guardian's final words to him. Their judgment is pure. They'll see our actions for what they are. As the horizon moved away from Earth, Reed thought about the long journey ahead for humanity. They had ignored the warnings once, but now they had a second chance. A chance to prove they could be more than just takers. A chance to show that humans, too, could learn the truth about balance. Dust swirled around Tev's boots as he knelt in the ancient ruins. The wind howled across the barren landscape, but he barely noticed it. His six-fingered hands carefully brushed away centuries of dirt from what looked like a metal panel. His heart beat faster under his pale blue skin. "Tev, we should head back. The storm is getting worse," called Ren from the shelter of their small survey ship. Tev ignored his friend. After 3 years of searching dead worlds for proof, he couldn't stop now. The ruins around him were different from the others they had found. These weren't random buildings or broken machines. This was a military outpost, a human military outpost. Humans. The very word made some of his people tremble. The great warriors who once ruled the stars. The beings who fought like demons and built wonders that still couldn't be matched. All gone now for 500,000 years. Just stories to frighten children. But Tev knew better. The humans were real, and he had spent his life studying the few traces they left behind. "I found something," Tev shouted as his fingers felt a small groove in the panel. He pressed it, and with a soft hiss, the metal slid open. Inside was a small device, still gleaming as if made yesterday. Ren hurried over, the wind tearing at his protective suit. "What is it?" "I don't know." Tev turned the object over in his hands. It was a simple black cube with a single button. Despite its age, it hummed with power. "It's still working after all this time." "Don't touch it. Director Mala will want it taken back intact." Tev knew Ren was right. Protocol demanded they seal any artifacts and return them to the Science Academy. But something about this small cube called to him. Before he could stop himself, he pressed the button. The air above the cube shimmered, and then light burst forth. Both researchers stumbled back as a figure formed in the air. A human. It stood tall, wearing a dark uniform covered with markings that must have shown rank. "This is Admiral Stone of the Earth Defense Fleet," the image said in a voice that seemed to reach into Tev's mind, translating itself. "If you are seeing this message, then our time has passed, but our legacy remains." Tev could hardly breathe. A real human voice, speaking across 500,000 years. "The wrath sleeps, but not forever. When our child awakens, we will return." The figure paused, looking straight at Tev, as if it could see him. "The coordinates that follow lead to what we have left behind. Use them wisely." Numbers flashed in the air, burning themselves into Tev's memory. Then the image vanished, leaving only the silent cube. "Did you see that?" Tev whispered. Ren nodded, his eyes wide. "We need to report this immediately." 2 days later, Tev stood before Director Mala in her cold office at the Science Academy. The cube sat on her desk, now sealed in a containment field. "It's just an old recording device," Mala said, her tone dismissive. "The message means nothing." Tev couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Director, this is the most complete human artifact ever found. The message mentions coordinates to a dead system." Mala cut him off. "We've already checked the location. It's an unlivable star with no planets of value. But what if there's something we're missing? What if our sensors can't detect what's there?" Mala stood up, towering over Tev. "This obsession with humans has gone too far. They were an aggressive species that destroyed themselves, nothing more. The Council has already decided that this artifact will be stored and studied carefully, not used for wild treasure hunts." Tev clenched his fists. "The human called it Wrath's Child. Don't you want to know what that means?" "What I want," Mala said coldly, "is for you to remember your place. This discovery will be announced properly, after careful study. Until then, you are ordered to speak of it to no one." That night, Tev couldn't sleep. The coordinates burned in his mind, along with the human's words. When our child awakens, we will return. What did it mean? How could a species return from extinction? His communication device beeped. It was Ren. Have you seen the news? Ren's voice was excited. There are reports coming in from the outer systems. Old machines are turning on by themselves. Defense systems from the human era are activating. Tev sat up in his sleeping pod. Where? Everywhere. Places where humans once lived. It's like something woke them up. The next morning, Tev made his decision. He found Ren in the Academy's food hall. I'm going to those coordinates, he said quietly. Tonight. Ren almost choked on his meal. You're what? But Director Mela. We'll never approve an expedition. I know. Tev leaned closer. I've copied the coordinates. I can take one of the small research vessels. They won't even notice it's gone until we're far away. Ren looked alarmed. I need a pilot. You're the best one I know. Ren shook his head. This is crazy. We'll lose our positions at the Academy. Maybe we'll make the greatest discovery in history. Tev's eyes shined with excitement. Think about it, Ren. What if the humans left something behind? Something important enough to hide for 500,000 years. Before Ren could answer, their devices beeped with an emergency alert. All Academy staff were being called to an emergency meeting. More ancient systems had activated, this time closer to the core worlds. It's happening, Tev whispered. Whatever the humans were waiting for, it's starting now. That night, as the 3 moons rose over the Academy, a small research vessel slipped away from its dock. Inside, Tev watched as Ren expertly guided the ship past the orbital security stations. Course set for the coordinates, Ren said, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. We'll arrive in 3 days. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Tev stared out at the streaking stars. Somewhere out there, a message left by the last humans was coming true. The Wrath was awakening, and Tev had chosen to meet it head-on. Behind them, across the galaxy, more ancient systems flickered to life, like old soldiers rising from a long sleep. The countdown had begun. Have you seen the news? Ren's voice was excited. There are reports coming in from the outer systems. Old machines are turning on by themselves. Defense systems from the human era are activating. Tev sat up in his sleeping pod. Where? Everywhere. Places where humans once lived. It's like something woke them up. The next morning, Tev made his decision. He found Ren in the Academy's food hall. I'm going to those coordinates, he said quietly. Tonight. Ren almost choked on his meal. You're what? But Director Mela. We'll never approve an expedition. I know. Tev leaned closer. I've copied the coordinates. I can take one of the small research vessels. They won't even notice it's gone until we're far away. Ren looked alarmed. I need a pilot. You're the best one I know. Ren shook his head. This is crazy. We'll lose our positions at the Academy. Maybe we'll make the greatest discovery in history. Tev's eyes shined with excitement. Think about it, Ren. What if the humans left something behind? Something important enough to hide for 500,000 years. Before Ren could answer, their devices beeped with an emergency alert. All Academy staff were being called to an emergency meeting. More ancient systems had activated, this time closer to the core worlds. It's happening, Tev whispered. Whatever the humans were waiting for, it's starting now. That night, as the 3 moons rose over the Academy, a small research vessel slipped away from its dock. Inside, Tev watched as Ren expertly guided the ship past the orbital security stations. Course set for the coordinates, Ren said, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. We'll arrive in 3 days. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Tev stared out at the streaking stars. Somewhere out there, a message left by the last humans was coming true. The Wrath was awakening, and Tev had chosen to meet it head-on. Behind them, across the galaxy, more ancient systems flickered to life, like old soldiers rising from a long sleep. The countdown had begun. Have you seen the news? Ren's voice was excited. There are reports coming in from the outer systems. Old machines are turning on by themselves. Defense systems from the human era are activating. Tev sat up in his sleeping pod. Where? Everywhere. Places where humans once lived. It's like something woke them up. The next morning, Tev made his decision. He found Ren in the Academy's food hall. I'm going to those coordinates, he said quietly. Tonight. Ren almost choked on his meal. You're what? But Director Mela. We'll never approve an expedition. I know. Tev leaned closer. I've copied the coordinates. I can take one of the small research vessels. They won't even notice it's gone until we're far away. We? Ren looked alarmed. I need a pilot. You're the best one I know. Ren shook his head. This is crazy. We'll lose our positions at the Academy. Maybe, or maybe we'll make the greatest discovery in history. Tev's eyes shined with excitement. Think about it, Ren. What if the humans left something behind? Something important enough to hide for 500,000 years. Before Ren could answer, their devices beeped with an emergency alert. All Academy staff were being called to an emergency meeting. More ancient systems had activated, this time closer to the core worlds. It's happening, Tev whispered. Whatever the humans were waiting for, it's starting now. That night, as the three moons rose over the Academy, a small research vessel slipped away from its dock. Inside, Tev watched as Ren expertly guided the ship past the orbital security stations. Course set for the coordinates, Ren said, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. We'll arrive in 3 days. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Tev stared out at the streaking stars. Somewhere out there, a message left by the last humans was coming true. The wrath was awakening, and Tev had chosen to meet it head-on. Behind them, across the galaxy, more ancient systems flickered to life, like old soldiers rising from a long sleep. The countdown had begun. Have you seen the news? Ren's voice was excited. There are reports coming in from the outer systems. Old machines are turning on by themselves. Defense systems from the human era are activating. Tev sat up in his sleeping pod. Where? Everywhere. Places where humans once lived. It's like something woke them up. The next morning, Tev made his decision. He found Ren in the Academy's food hall. I'm going to those coordinates, he said quietly. Tonight. Ren almost choked on his meal. You're what? But Director Mela. We'll never approve an expedition. I know. Tev leaned closer. I've copied the coordinates. I can take one of the small research vessels. They won't even notice it's gone until we're far away. We? Ren looked alarmed. I need a pilot. You're the best one I know. Ren shook his head. This is crazy. We'll lose our positions at the Academy. Maybe, or maybe we'll make the greatest discovery in history. Tev's eyes shined with excitement. Think about it, Ren. What if the humans left something behind? Something important enough to hide for 500,000 years. Before Ren could answer, their devices beeped with an emergency alert. All Academy staff were being called to an emergency meeting. More ancient systems had activated, this time closer to the core worlds. It's happening, Tev whispered. Whatever the humans were waiting for, it's starting now. That night, as the three moons rose over the Academy, a small research vessel slipped away from its dock. Inside, Tev watched as Ren expertly guided the ship past the orbital security stations. Course set for the coordinates, Ren said, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. We'll arrive in 3 days. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Tev stared out at the streaking stars. Somewhere out there, a message left by the last humans was coming true. The wrath was awakening, and Tev had chosen to meet it head-on. Behind them, across the galaxy, more ancient systems flickered to life, like old soldiers rising from a long sleep. The countdown had begun. 3 days in the tiny research vessel left Tev and Ren tired and on edge. The ship wasn't built for long journeys. It had one small sleeping area and barely enough food for a week. "We're approaching the coordinates," Ren said, checking the navigation panel. "Dropping out of faster-than-light travel now." The stars stopped streaking by and settled into tiny points of light. Before them lay a yellow star, much like countless others. "That's it?" Tev asked, leaning forward. "I don't see anything special." Ren shook his head. "The scans show 8 planets. Third one from the star might be solid, but readings are strange." He frowned at his instruments. "It's like something is blocking our sensors." "Take us closer to the third planet," Tev said. His heart beat faster. This had to be it. As their ship approached, they saw a blue-green world. But something wasn't right. The planet seemed to flicker, like a bad image. "What's happening?" Tev asked. Ren's fingers flew over the controls. "I don't know. Our sensors can't get a clear reading. It's like the planet is there and not there at the same time." Suddenly, a bright light flashed across their view screen. The ship shuddered. "We're caught in some kind of beam," Ren shouted, fighting with the controls. "I can't break free." The research vessel began moving toward the planet, pulled by an invisible force. As they got closer, the flickering image of the planet changed. The blue-green world solidified before their eyes, and now they could see continents, oceans, and swirling white clouds. "It's Earth," Tev whispered in awe. "The human homeworld." "That's impossible," Ren said. "Earth was destroyed during the last days of humanity. Every record confirms it." "Every record was wrong," Tev replied as their ship was pulled into the planet's atmosphere. The beam guided their ship down to a flat area surrounded by green trees. With a soft thud, they landed on the surface of a world that shouldn't exist. "What do we do now?" Ren asked, checking the air readings. "The atmosphere is breathable, but who knows what's out there?" Tev was already putting on his exploration suit. "We came all this way. I'm going outside." The air that hit Tev's face when he opened the ship's door was fresh and clean. The gravity was slightly stronger than what he was used to, making his steps heavy. All around them stretched a vast green field, with tall trees in the distance. "This can't be natural," Ren said, joining him outside. "A planet doesn't stay hidden for 500,000 years." Before Tev could answer, the ground beneath them hummed. A section of the field slid open, revealing a stairway leading underground. "I think we're being invited in," Tev said, taking a step toward the opening. Ren grabbed his arm. This could be a trap. If whatever brought us here wanted to harm us, it could have done so already. Tev gently pulled away. "I'm going down." The stairs led to a long, well-lit corridor. The walls were white and smooth, with strange symbols Tev recognized as human writing. At the end of the corridor was a large round door, which opened as they approached. Inside was a room filled with blinking lights and screens. In the center stood a figure that looked almost like a Solarian, but with only 2 arms instead of 4, and skin a pale pink color. "Welcome to Earth Preservation Site Alpha," the figure said. "I am Caretaker, the artificial intelligence system tasked with maintaining this facility." Tev stepped forward. "You're a human AI, still functioning after all this time." "I have been operational for 502,431 years, 3 months, and 17 days, Caretaker replied, waiting for the conditions specified in Protocol Wrathschild. "What is Wrathschild?" Tev asked, remembering the message from the cube. Caretaker gestured to a screen, which lit up with images. 500,000 years ago, humanity faced extinction from a cosmic force they called the Blight. Rather than fight a losing battle, they enacted their final protocol. The screen showed massive ships leaving Earth, filled with humans. The public story was that humanity scattered to the stars, where they eventually died out. Caretaker continued. The truth was more complex. Earth itself was hidden behind a quantum shield, invisible to all sensors. And deep below the surface, the essence of humanity was preserved. Preserved how? Wren asked. Follow me. Caretaker led them through more corridors until they reached a massive chamber. The walls were lined with thousands of small containers, each glowing with a soft blue light. The complete genetic code of every human living during the final days was stored here, Caretaker explained, along with their memories, personalities, and knowledge. For 500,000 years, we have waited for the blight to pass and for the galaxy to be safe again. And now, Tev asked, looking at the countless containers. Now the waiting is over. The final phase of Protocol Wrath's Child has begun. Caretaker led them to the center of the room, where a single pod larger than the others hummed with energy. The birth of the first new human. The pod's cover slid back, revealing a small being floating in clear liquid. It looked like a human child, perhaps 6 or 7 years old by Solarian standards. Its eyes were closed, and its chest rose and fell with slow breaths. This is Aster, Caretaker said, the child of Wrath, the one who will awaken the fleet. What fleet? Wren asked, his voice shaking. Before Caretaker could answer, alarms blared throughout the facility. The AI's expression changed. We have been discovered, it said. Orbital scans detect multiple vessels entering the system. On a nearby screen, Tev saw several large ships approaching Earth. Even at this distance, he recognized their design. Those are Vrex warships, he said. How did they find us? The quantum shield is failing, Caretaker replied. It was designed to last only until the child awakened. The AI turned to the pod where the human child floated. Aster must leave now. The plan has advanced more quickly than anticipated. The liquid in the pod drained away, and the child's eyes fluttered open. They were a bright blue, alert and aware in a way that made Tev step back. The child knows what to do, Caretaker said. You must take Aster away from here, to safety. Earth has served its purpose and will now complete its final task. What task? Wren asked. Self-destruction, Caretaker replied calmly. This facility contains technology that cannot fall into enemy hands. Earth will appear to be destroyed, as history has always claimed it was. The child, Aster, was now sitting up in the pod, watching them with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. Will you help? Caretaker asked Tev directly. Will you protect the child of Wrath? Tev looked at the human child, then at the screen showing the approaching Vrex fleet. The choice seemed impossible, yet somehow he knew it had been made long before he was born. Yes, he said. We'll help. As they raced back to their ship with the child, Tev couldn't help but wonder what power had just been unleashed upon the galaxy, and whether he was saving it or dooming it. Hurry! Tev shouted as they ran toward their ship. The ground shook beneath them. In his arms, Aster felt unnaturally light, despite the stronger gravity of Earth. Wren reached the ship first, and quickly started the launch sequence. The Vrex ships are entering the atmosphere. Tev placed Aster in a seat and secured the safety straps. The human child watched with those strange blue eyes, calm despite the chaos around them. Can you understand me? Tev asked. Aster nodded. Caretaker taught me your language while I slept. The ship lifted off just as explosions began to rock the landscape. Through the view screen, Tev saw huge sections of Earth's surface cracking open, revealing machinery underneath. The peaceful green fields had been only a thin disguise over a planet-sized mechanism. What's happening? Wren asked as he pushed the engines to maximum power. Earth is destroying itself, Aster said in a small but steady voice, as it was always meant to do. The sky above them filled with Vrex warships, massive black vessels covered in weapon ports. Their research ship was tiny in comparison, like a fly next to birds of prey. They'll catch us before we can reach faster than light speed, Wren said, his hands dancing over the controls. Suddenly, Aster unbuckled and moved to the navigation panel. Before either of them could stop her, she placed her small hand on the screen. There, she said, pointing to a section of space that looked empty on their scanners. Go there. Now. Ren looked at Tev, who nodded. What choice did they have? Ren changed course, heading toward the coordinates Aster indicated. Behind them, the first Vrex ships began to fire. Energy beams sliced through space around their vessel. We won't make it, Ren shouted. Then, as if responding to his words, Earth exploded. A blinding flash filled their view screen. The shockwave caught the nearest Vrex ships, tossing them aside like toys. The distraction gave their small ship precious seconds to reach the mysterious coordinates. As they approached the empty space Aster had pointed to, their sensors began to malfunction. There's nothing there, Ren said. There is, Aster replied. She touched another panel, and strange symbols appeared, human writing. Before their eyes, space itself seemed to fold open, revealing a swirling tunnel of blue light. Go in, Aster commanded. Ren hesitated only for a moment before dragging their ship into the opening. Behind them, the Vrex fleet regrouped and gave chase, but they were too late. The hole in space closed as soon as their ship entered. Inside the tunnel, streams of energy flowed around them like water. The ship's engines shut down, but they continued moving, carried by some unknown force. What is this place? Tev asked, staring at the impossible tunnel. A wormhole network, Aster explained. Humans built it before they disappeared. Only those with the right genetic key can open the gates. And you have this key? Tev asked. Aster nodded. I was made for it. I am the key to everything they left behind. The tunnel deposited them in a different part of space, far from Earth and the Vrex fleet. Stars surrounded them in unfamiliar patterns. Where are we? Ren asked, checking the navigation system. Old human territory, Aster said. A place called Proxima. We'll be safe here for a while. They landed on a small moon orbiting a red dwarf star. The surface was barren, but sensors detected an artificial structure beneath the crust. Once again, Aster led the way, finding an entrance hidden among the rocks. Inside, they discovered an old human outpost. Dust covered everything, but when Aster entered, lights flickered on and machines hummed to life. How did you do that? Tev asked. I didn't, Aster replied. They recognized me. The next few days were spent in relative safety. Aster showed them how to use the human technology to monitor space around them. There was no sign of pursuit yet, but Tev knew it wouldn't last. The Vrex won't give up, he told Ren as they watched Aster interact with an old human computer. They're afraid of humans, always have been. With good reason, it seems, Ren replied. Look at what this child can do, and she's only just awakened. Indeed, Aster was changing daily. She grew taller, her mind absorbed information at an alarming rate, and she could operate technology neither of them understood. Sometimes, Tev caught her staring into space, as if listening to voices only she could hear. On the 5th day, alarms blared throughout the outpost. They found us, Aster said, looking at a screen showing a Vrex scout ship in orbit. We need to move. How? They'll see our ship as soon as we launch, Ren argued. Aster walked to a blank wall and placed her hand against it. The wall slid open, revealing a hangar containing a sleek vessel unlike anything Tev had seen before. A human ship, he whispered. An interceptor, Aster corrected. Faster than anything the Vrex have. They quickly transferred their supplies to the new ship. Inside, the controls were strange, but Aster moved to the pilot's seat as if she had done it 1,000 times before. I'll fly, she said. It wasn't a question. As they lifted off, the Vrex ship detected them and opened fire. But the human interceptor moved with impossible speed and agility, easily avoiding the shots. Hold on, Aster warned as her small hands gripped the controls. The ship shot forward, faster than Tev thought possible without using faster-than-light travel. How are we moving so quickly? Ren asked, his voice filled with awe. Inertia dampening and gravity manipulation, Aster explained. Human technology. They left the Vrex ship far behind, but it had already sent a message. Soon, the entire Vrex fleet would be hunting them. As they fled, Aster explained more of her purpose. I carry the activation codes for something called the response. When I reach full maturity, I can awaken the sleeping fleet. What fleet? Tev asked. Before the last humans died, they built warships. Thousands of them. Then they hid these ships in pocket dimensions throughout the galaxy. Only I can find them. Only I can wake them. Why? What's the point after all this time? Ren asked. Aster's face grew serious, looking older than her physical age. Because the blight is returning. The humans knew it would. That's why they created me. That's why they waited. Everything that's happening was planned 500,000 years ago. Tev felt a chill run down his spine. What is the blight, exactly? Before Aster could answer, their sensors detected multiple ships closing in from all directions. The Vrex have found them faster than expected. They're everywhere, Ren said, looking at the tactical display. Aster's hands flew over the controls. There's another wormhole gate nearby. If we can reach it. The ship accelerated, pushing toward a seemingly empty section of space. Behind them, the first Vrex warships opened fire. We're not going to make it, Tev said as energy blasts came closer and closer. Then Aster did something unexpected. She closed her eyes and whispered words in an old human language. Suddenly, the dormant weapon systems on the interceptor came to life. Without anyone touching the controls, the ship fired back at their pursuers, destroying 2 Vrex vessels instantly. How did you do that? Tev asked, stunned. Aster opened her eyes, which now glowed with an inner light. I didn't. They did. The humans left guardians in their technology. They're helping us now. As they raced toward the invisible wormhole gate, Tev realized with growing certainty that the galaxy was about to change forever. The age of peace after humanity's disappearance was ending, and whatever came next would be beyond anything he had imagined. The human interceptor shot through the wormhole, leaving the Vrex ships behind. The tunnel of light collapsed behind them, cutting off pursuit. For the moment, they were safe. They emerged in a dense asteroid field. Massive rocks floated silently around them, providing perfect cover. Where are we? Tev asked, looking at the unfamiliar star patterns. Aster, who now looked more like a young teenager than the child they had found on Earth, studied the ship's displays. The edge worlds, far from Vrex space. Ren ran a system check on their new ship. This vessel is amazing. The technology. I can barely understand half of it. You're not meant to, Aster said simply. It was built for humans. Tev watched Aster closely. In just days, she had grown taller and her mind seemed to develop even faster. Sometimes she spoke of things she couldn't possibly know, as if the knowledge was programmed into her. We need supplies, Ren said, and somewhere to hide while we figure out our next move. Aster pointed to a large asteroid on their scanner. There, it's hollow. As they approached the asteroid, Tev saw that it wasn't natural. The surface had been carved with strange symbols, and a massive door was built into one side. The door opened as they neared, as if expecting them. What is this place? Tev asked as they flew inside. A safe haven, Aster replied. Built by the Keepers. The Keepers? Ren looked confused. I've never heard of them. Inside the asteroid was a vast space, large enough to hold hundreds of ships. A small docking bay lit up as they approached, guiding them to land. When they exited the ship, the air was warm and breathable. Welcome, child of wrath, a voice echoed through the chamber. A tall, slender being stepped from the shadows. It had 4 arms like Tev's people, but its skin was a deep purple, and its eyes were solid white without pupils. I am Morn, last of the Keeper Council, the being said. We have waited a long time for your arrival. Aster stepped forward. You know who I am. We know what you are, Morn replied. The Keepers were allies of humanity. We promised to watch and wait until the child was awakened. Morn led them through corridors carved from the asteroid's rock until they reached a large chamber filled with glowing crystals and strange machines. 500,000 years ago, Morn began, a threat came to our galaxy from the void between galaxies. Beings of pure energy that consumed all life they touched. Humans called them the Void Heralds. Morn touched one of the crystals, and images appeared in the air around them. Terrible scenes of planets burning and entire species vanishing. The humans fought the heralds when no one else could. Morn continued. They sacrificed themselves to drive the heralds back to the void, but they knew the heralds would return someday. And that day is now, Aster said. It wasn't a question. Morn nodded. The signs are all around us. The anomalies appearing across the galaxy, the ancient systems activating. These are warnings. The Void Heralds are returning. Tev struggled to understand. But what does this have to do with the Vrex? Why are they hunting us? Morn's expression darkened. The Vrex are not what they seem. They rose to power too quickly after humanity's disappearance. Their technology advanced too rapidly. What are you saying? Ren asked. The Vrex are puppets, Morn said. The first wave of the Herald invasion. They don't even know it themselves. Their leaders were corrupted generations ago, their minds bent to serve the Heralds. Aster walked to one of the crystals and placed her hand on it. The crystal glowed brighter, and more images appeared, humans in battle, fighting with weapons and ships far beyond anything Tev had ever seen. I remember, Aster whispered. Not my memories, but theirs. The genetic memory of the last humans. She turned to face them, her eyes glowing with the same light as the crystals. The humans knew they couldn't defeat the Heralds forever, so they created a plan that would take thousands of years to unfold. They seeded the galaxy with hidden technology, ships and weapons. They created me to find and activate it all when the time came. You're not just a human, Tev realized. You're something more. I am human, Aster said. But I was engineered to be a perfect bridge between humanity's past and its future. My mind can interface with their technology. My body grows and adapts faster than normal. And I carry within me the collective knowledge of the last human generation. Morn touched another crystal. The Vrex fear what they do not understand. Their herald masters fear what could destroy them. They will stop at nothing to find and kill the child before she can awaken the fleet. How big is this fleet? Ren asked. Thousands of warships, Morn replied, hidden in dimensional pockets throughout the galaxy, each one piloted by the preserved consciousness of humanity's greatest commanders. Tev felt dizzy. The scale of what he was hearing was almost too much to comprehend. You're saying that humanity never truly died? That they've been waiting all this time? In a way, Morn said. They transcended physical form. Their bodies died, but their minds, their knowledge, their very essence was preserved in the fleet's quantum systems. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the asteroid base. Morn rushed to a control panel. Vrex ships, the keeper said. Many of them. They found us. How? Tev asked. We were careful. Aster's face showed realization. They're not tracking us. They're tracking the activations. Each time I connect with human technology, it sends out a signal. The heralds can sense it. Outside, the first explosions rocked the asteroid. The Vrex had begun their attack. We must get you to the forge, Morn said to Aster. It's the only place where you can complete your transformation and activate the fleet. Where is this forge? Tev asked. Hidden inside a dying star, Morn replied. The last place anyone would look. More explosions shook the base. Parts of the ceiling began to crumble. There's no time, Ren said. Our ship can't fight through a Vrex blockade. Morn led them to a hidden hangar deeper in the asteroid. Inside was a massive ship, at least 10 times larger than their interceptor. Its hull was covered with strange patterns that seemed to move and shift as Tev watched. A keeper warship, Morn said. The last of its kind. It will get you to the forge. As they prepared to board, a section of the ceiling collapsed, sending huge chunks of rock crashing down. One was heading straight for Aster. Without thinking, Tev pushed her out of the way, taking the impact himself. Pain exploded through his body as his leg was crushed beneath the rock. "Tev!" Ren shouted, rushing to his friend's side. Tev knew immediately that the injury was severe. "Go," he said through gritted teeth. "Get her to the forge. I'll only slow you down." "We're not leaving you," Aster said firmly. Morn stepped forward. "I will stay with him. I can heal his wounds, but you must go now, child of wrath. The fate of the galaxy depends on it." Aster hesitated, then nodded. She knelt beside Tev and touched his forehead. "I won't forget this. When the fleet returns, they will know what you did for me." As Ren and Aster boarded the keeper ship, Tev watched through pain-filled eyes. He had started this journey seeking knowledge about an extinct species. Now he was part of a war that had been planned for 500,000 years. The keeper ship rose silently and shot out of the asteroid, heading toward a fate Tev could only imagine. Behind it, the first Vrex ships broke through the asteroid's defenses, unaware that the real war was just beginning. The keeper ship raced through space, pursued by a growing fleet of Vrex warships. Inside, Ren struggled with the unfamiliar controls, while Aster sat in silent meditation, her eyes closed and her breathing slow. "They're gaining on us," Ren said, checking the rear scanners. "I don't know if we'll make it to this forge." Aster opened her eyes. She looked different again, taller, with an adult's face, but still young. Her growth had accelerated even more. "We will make it," she said. "The ship knows the way." Indeed, the keeper vessel seemed to be flying itself, making course corrections and evading Vrex attacks without Ren's input. When the Vrex got too close, hidden weapons emerged from the ship's hull and fired back with devastating accuracy. 3 days passed as they traveled toward the forge. With each passing hour, Aster changed more. Her mind expanded, and she spoke less and less, as if saving her energy for what was to come. "There," she finally said, pointing to the view screen. Before them stood a massive dying star, its red light pulsing weakly. Around it orbited chunks of broken planets and fields of space debris. "The forge is inside the star," Ren asked in disbelief. Aster nodded. "Humans hid their most important secrets in the most dangerous places." The ship plunged toward the dying star. Heat warnings blared as they approached the outer layers of the sun. "We'll burn up," Ren shouted. "Trust me," Aster replied calmly. As they entered the star's atmosphere, something strange happened. The burning plasma parted before them, revealing a tunnel leading directly to the star's core. Inside the core, instead of crushing pressure and unbearable heat, they found an enormous space station. The forge was a vast ring of metal, spinning slowly around an artificial sun of its own. As their ship approached, lights flickered on across its surface, welcoming them home. They docked at one of the many ports along the ring. When they stepped out, the air was cool and clean, as if the station had been waiting for them. "This is where I complete my transformation," Aster said, walking confidently through the station's corridors. "This is where the response begins." Ren followed, marveling at the human technology all around them. "What exactly will happen?" "I will connect with the station's systems," Aster explained. "My mind will serve as the key to awaken the fleet. And then," she paused, "then humanity returns." They reached the center of the station, a massive chamber filled with thousands of glowing pods. Each pod contained what looked like a suit of armor, but Ren could sense they were much more than that. Aster walked to a platform in the center of the room. It must happen now. The Vrex will find this place soon. As if on cue, alarms began to sound throughout the station. On the screens around them, they could see hundreds of Vrex ships surrounding the star, preparing to attack. "They're coming," Ren said. "Too many to fight." Aster stepped onto the platform. This was always the plan. The Vrex would follow the child of Wrath to the forge, and here they would witness the return. The platform began to glow beneath her feet. Energy swirled around her body, lifting her into the air. Her eyes shone with brilliant light as she spread her arms wide. "Ren," she said, her voice now layered with many others, "you should know that Tev made it. Morn got him to safety. He will see what comes next." Ren felt relief washing over him. "What is happening to you?" "I am becoming what I was always meant to be," Aster replied. "Not just the child of wrath, but its vessel." The energy surrounding her intensified. Her form seemed to blur and shift, becoming something more than human. All around the chamber, the armor pods began to open, their contents rising to float in the air. On the screens, the Vrex fleet had begun its attack on the star. Their weapons could not penetrate to the core, but they were trying to collapse the star itself. "It's too late for them," Aster said, her voice echoing with power. "The fleet awakens." Across the galaxy, space itself began to tear open. From these wounds in reality emerged ships, massive human warships that had been hidden in pocket dimensions for 500,000 years. They appeared by the hundreds, then thousands, near every major world and star system. In the command center of the Forge, screens showed these emergences happening everywhere at once. The human fleet had returned, and it was greater than anything the galaxy had ever seen. A new figure materialized beside Aster, a hologram of a tall human in a dark uniform. The same face from the message Tev had found so long ago. "I am Admiral Stone," the figure said to Ren, "commander of the hidden fleet. The child has done her part. Now we do ours." Outside, the first human warships reached the dying star. They moved with impossible speed and precision, cutting through the Vrex blockade as if it weren't there. Their weapons fired beams of energy that didn't just destroy the Vrex ships. They erased them from existence. "What are you?" Ren asked the Admiral. "Not just recordings or programs. We are humanity evolved," Stone replied. "Before the last human bodies died, we transferred our consciousness into quantum matrices. We have been waiting, growing, learning in our hidden dimensions. And now we return to finish what we started." Aster, still floating in energy, opened her eyes. "The Void Heralds are here. I can feel them. They're controlling the Vrex leaders directly now." Admiral Stone nodded. "Then it's time for the final battle." On the screens, Ren watched as the human fleet formed a massive defensive perimeter around key worlds. The Vrex assembled their forces to attack, but it was clear they were outmatched. Human ships moved in ways that defied physics, their weapons breaking through Vrex shields with ease. "Will you destroy them all?" Ren asked, feeling both awe and fear. "No," Stone said. "We fight the Heralds, not their puppets. Most of the Vrex are innocent, being used by forces they don't understand. We will free them." The battle spread across multiple star systems. At key points, human ships fired special weapons that didn't destroy the Vrex ships, but instead released pulses of energy that somehow broke the Herald's control. In the midst of the chaos, a smaller human vessel docked at the Forge. The doors opened, and Tev limped in, supported by Morn. His leg was healing but still weak. "Tev." Ren rushed to his friend. "You're alive." "Thanks to the Keepers," Tev said. He looked up at Aster, still suspended in energy. "Did it work? Did she awaken the fleet?" "See for yourself," Ren said, pointing to the screens showing the battle. Tev watched in wonder as the legend he had studied all his life played out before his eyes. Humanity had returned, and they were even more powerful than the stories had claimed. After 3 days of fighting, it was over. The Void Heralds, exposed and vulnerable without their Vrex puppets, were driven back to the spaces between galaxies. The human fleet established a permanent defense network to ensure they could never return. Aster finally descended from her energy cocoon, now fully grown and radiating quiet power. "The response is complete," she said, "but this is just the beginning." Admiral Stone's hologram nodded. "Humanity has returned, not to rule, but to protect. We offer a new covenant to all species. Join us in defending this galaxy against threats from beyond." In the years that followed, Tev became the chief ambassador between the Solarians and returned humanity. Ren took command of a joint fleet of Solarian and human ships. And Aster, the child of Wrath who became so much more, traveled the stars, helping to build a new alliance of worlds stronger than any that had come before. 500,000 years after the last human supposedly died, humanity had returned, and this time they promised they would never leave again.